Chapter 1733. She raised her finger and pointed at Luo Qingtong and Huangfu Shi. Huangfu Shi was completely enveloped by the light of the sea god statue and was beginning to accept the control of the statue. Rays of light were transmitted from the statue to his body. Seeing this scene, those who had taken the initiative to seek refuge with the third princess of the Sea Emperor immediately rushed over. As for those who were forced to submit to the third princess of the Sea Emperor, although they wanted to help Luo Qingtong and Huangfu Shi, they didn't dare to act rashly when they saw the people from the Breeze Pavilion on the high platform not far away. The people from the Breeze Pavilion are too strong. Sighed, the little prince can't defeat them. Everyone looked at Huangfu Shi, who was enveloped by the light of the sea god statue, and felt despair. It would be fine if the people from the Breeze Pavilion were not on the Sea Emperor Island. With their strength, they could fight against the third princess and protect Huangfu Shi so that he could succeed in becoming the Sea Emperor. But they could feel the layers of power surrounding them, and they couldn't move at all. On the high platform not far away, Song Yan and the people from the Breeze Pavilion gritted their teeth when they saw Luo Qingtong and Huangfu Shi appear. What's going on? She looked in the direction of Luo Qingtong. How is this woman not dead? What is Uncle Master Zhang doing? Song Yan gritted her teeth, but her expression soon relaxed. It's good that she's not dead. Although I don't know how she escaped from Uncle Master Zhang, she was stupid enough to come to the Sea Emperor Island and walk right into our trap, Song Yan sneered. She probably thought that Uncle Master Zhang was the only one from the Breeze Pavilion who came to kill her. She thought that she could come back and save the people from the Sea Emperor Dragon Court after she got rid of Uncle Master Zhang. What a joke. I'll see how you die later. Song Yan ordered the people from the Breeze Pavilion to intimidate the people from the Sea Emperor Dragon Court. Luo Qingtong did not want to take the road to heaven, but instead chose to barge into hell. She was waiting to see how the third princess of the Sea Emperor would torture her to death. He thought of the group of sea beasts prepared by the third princess of the sea god. She sneered in her heart. Later, Luo Qingtong would be able to enjoy the taste specially prepared for her. She sat on a large wooden chair with a content expression as she watched the members of the Sea Emperor Dragon Court rush toward Luo Qingtong. She was prepared to watch a good show. However, kill them all. Seeing the people from the Sea Emperor Dragon Court rushing over, Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. She didn't even look at them as she spoke coldly. Her voice sounded, and in the next second, bang bang bang. In an instant, the people from the Sea Emperor Dragon Court who were charging towards Luo Qingtong and Huangfu Shi all exploded in midair. The figures of the Black Field members were revealed. At the same time, Luo Qingtong's figure flew up. Protect little Lucky. As soon as she finished speaking, she appeared in front of the third princess. The latter was stunned and had no idea what was going on. How did this foreign slut have so many powerful cultivators by her side? The third princess of the Sea Emperor had never fought against Luo Qingtong before, so she naturally didn't know that there were so many people protecting her. Moreover, they were so strong. Chapter 1734. Just as the third princess of the Sea Empire was thinking about this, Luo Qingtong had already sent her flying with a slap. Luo Qingtong's strength had already risen to the Saint Realm. This slap instantly sent the third princess of the Sea Empire tumbling over a dozen times in the air before crashing heavily onto the ground. The third princess of the Sea Empire lay on the ground, constantly vomiting blood. Her mouth was filled with blood and teeth. If Luo Qingtong had not promised Huangfu Jin that she would leave her for him to deal with, the third princess of the Sea Empire would have been slapped to death by Luo Qingtong. Luo Qingtong's gaze was cold. Her gaze swept past the third princess of the Sea Empire who was lying on the ground vomiting blood before finally fainting completely. She then raised her eyes to look at Song Yan and the others in the spectator stands. What? The smug look on Song Yan's face completely disappeared at this moment. She looked at Luo Qingtong, who was dressed in fiery red, standing in the square. Then, she looked at the group of people from the black field surrounding Huangfu Jin. Her heart was filled with disbelief. How could this be? This woman's strength had already reached the saint realm. Not only that, but the people around her were not any weaker than the people from the breeze pavilion. How could this be? How could this woman have such a strong force by her side? She could not believe it. Song Yan's face was distorted. The people from the breeze pavilion beside her were also in disbelief. No, junior sister, we have to leave this place immediately. As they spoke, they hurriedly tried to take Song Yan away. However, it was too late. Bloody cross slash. Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold as she watched the people from the breeze pavilion dash out. She threw away the handkerchief she used to wipe her hands with and raised her hand to launch a wild attack. Hundreds of meters away, the life and death sword in Luo Qingtong's hand instantly transformed into the shape of a death blade. In the next second, streaks of bloody light mixed with the black aura of the death blade swept out in an instant and blasted towards the people from the breeze pavilion in front of her. None of them had expected Luo Qingtong to be able to unleash such an attack. The bloody cross slash was originally a martial technique of the Saint realm. With Luo Qingtong's current strength, she was able to fully display its might. In addition to the effect of the death blade in her hand, she was like the Grim Reaper reaping the lives of the Breeze Pavilion members in front of her. These people from the Breeze Pavilion thought that Luo Qingtong was the only one who could stop them. He didn't expect Luo Qingtong's attack to be so sharp. In an instant, the bodies of the people from the Breeze Pavilion, who were carrying Song Yan forward, suddenly fell to the ground under the light of Luo Qingtong's blood-colored cross. Not only that, but some of the weaker ones had their bodies chopped into several pieces in mid-air. Not for anything else, Luo Qingtong's current strength, coupled with the effects of the Saint Realm's martial arts and death blade, was completely invincible against those of the same realm. Bang bang bang. The bodies of the people from the Breeze Pavilion fell heavily to the ground. They wailed in pain and the pieces of their bodies mixed with the rain of blood all fell on their bodies. The ground was filled with the smell of blood. The other people from the Sea Emperor's Dragon Court were all stunned. They looked in the direction of Luo Qingtong in shock. The strength displayed by the young girl had really shocked them. Chapter 1735. This is impossible. How is this possible? Song Yan had never thought that she would fall into the hands of Luo Qingtong. Even when she saw that Luo Qingtong's strength had risen to the sage stage and that the people around her were also so powerful, she did not feel much fear other than hatred and jealousy. After all, she felt that Luo Qingtong would not dare to kill her. Even the people from the Black Field would not. At most, she would teach them a lesson like she did in the holy capital of the great Qi dynasty. After all, they were from the Breeze Pavilion, a 6th-grade sect in the hidden world. However, Luo Qingtong had killed almost half of them with a raise of her hand. Not to mention how terrifying the power was, she did not dare to imagine that the other party would dare to kill so many of them. Luo Qingtong, you bitch. She lay on the ground and looked at Luo Qingtong, who was covered in blood and flesh. The stench almost made her vomit. Song Yan's face was filled with disbelief and hysteria. How could Luo Qingtong dare to kill them? How dare she? Her screams shocked the people from the Sea Emperor Dragon Court, as well as the remaining people from the Breeze Pavilion who were lying on the ground and howling in pain. They looked in Song Yan's direction in shock. Looking at her twisted expression, they could not believe what they had just heard. Was junior sister crazy? She still wanted to scold Luo Qingtong at a time like this. Did she think that they were not dying fast enough? The people from the Breeze Pavilion were in disbelief. They could not understand Song Yan's thoughts and brain circuits. Everyone from the Sea Emperor Dragon Court felt like she was a lunatic. Luo Qingtong did not dare to kill her. Why wouldn't he dare to kill her? Just because she was from the breeze pavilion. She was going to kill someone. Was she not allowed to kill her and let her go so that she could gather more power to take revenge? However, the name Luo Qingtong seemed a little familiar. Everyone complained in their hearts as they thought about it. Then, someone suddenly widened his eyes. Evil Dr. Ghost Eye. Luo Qingtong is that evil Dr. Gui Tong's real name. The grand meeting of the 4 academies had already ended a long time ago. The news that Luo Qingtong was evil Dr. Ghost pupil had already spread throughout the entire True Spill continent. The members of the Sea Emperor's Dragon Court in the northern region had naturally heard about this as well. They looked in the direction of Luo Qingtong in shock. Evil Dr. Ghost Eye. This young girl who was on good terms with their little prince was actually the evil Dr. Ghost pupil whose name shook the entire True Spill continent. Under everyone's gaze, Luo Qingtong slowly walked towards Song Yan, who was half sprawled on the ground. The aura around her expanded. Enveloped by her aura, Song Yan tried to get up a few times, but was suppressed by her. Luo Qingtong, my father is the Grand Elder of the Breeze Pavilion. If you dare to touch me, our Breeze Pavilion won't let you off. When the time comes, I'll definitely kill your entire family. Song Yan roared hysterically. She did not believe that Luo Qingtong would really dare to kill her. This bitch, she must be deliberately trying to scare her. Luo Qingtong stopped in her tracks. The Grand Elder of the Breeze Pavilion. Luo Qingtong lowered her eyes and looked at Song Yan, who was lying at her feet. That's right. Song Yan thought that Luo Qingtong was scared by her and revealed a proud and cold smile. Chapter 1736. Is that so? That's quite impressive. However, Luo Qingtong looked at her and smiled. That smile was filled with icy coldness and murderous intent. I even dared to kill people from Celestial Palace and Beast-Taming King's Valley. Do you think I wouldn't dare to kill you? The smile on Luo Qingtong's lips was evil. She whispered these words into Song Yan's ears and sealed her mouth at the same time. Luo Qingtong's voice sounded like the whisper of a demon in her ears. Song Yan's face instantly turned pale. She stared at Luo Qingtong with wide eyes. She tried her best to open her mouth, but nothing came out. It was her. It was this woman who had made them the scapegoat of the previous Celestial Palace. There was also the matter of the Beast-Taming King Valley's elite disciples being killed in the hidden world. She was also the one who did it. This woman even dared to kill people from Celestial Palace and Beast-Taming King's Valley. That was a third-class sect and a first-class sect. Song Yan stared at Luo Qingtong in disbelief. Her face was filled with despair and shock. It was only now that she realized how laughable it was for her to go against Luo Qingtong. That would be equivalent to sending himself to his death. It was laughable that she had thought that Luo Qingtong wouldn't dare to kill her. Song Yan finally felt fear and regret, but it was too late. Luo Qingtong kicked her to the side. Drag her down. Deal with the third princess the way she wanted to deal with us. Luo Qingtong's eyes flashed with a bloody light. Hearing this, Song Yan screamed in agony. She recalled the methods that the third princess of the Sea Emperor had used to deal with Luo Qingtong. It could be said to be extremely cruel and terrifying. Previously, when she was listening from the side, she only felt that it was very satisfying. Now that she was about to experience it herself, she knew what it meant to be in the abyss. In an instant, she lost control of her bladder. Before she could cry out and beg for mercy, the people from the Sea Emperor's royal court who had been suppressed by them swarmed forward, gagged her, and dragged her down. These people had lost many of their clansmen when the Breeze Pavilion helped the third princess clean up the Sea Emperor's royal court. They hated Song Yan and the others to the core. As long as the people from the Breeze Pavilion were still alive, they were dragged down by them. They were well aware of the methods that the third princess of the sea had instructed them to use to deal with Luo Qingtong's corpse. They were sure that the people of the Breeze Pavilion would enjoy it very comfortably. As for Luo Qingtong, when she kicked Song Yan away, she had already destroyed all of her abilities and meridians. She also left a ball of power in her body. Under the control of Luo Qingtong's mind, this ball of energy could destroy her body with just a thought. Luo Qingtong would not give Song Yan and the rest a chance to escape. Of course, in order to implant this power, the other party had to be completely defenseless. After Luo Qingtong was done, she turned to look at Huang Fuxi, who was receiving the transfer of power from the Sea Emperor statue. The Sea Emperor and the others had also arrived at the plaza. With the Sea Emperor's support, he walked up to Luo Qingtong and thanked her. "Thank you, evil doctor." "It's nothing," Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. She was just about to say something when a bright light suddenly flashed in the depths of her eyes, and when she looked at Huang Fuxi again, her expression had already changed. "Oh no! She's Sea Emperors the Dragon Sea Emperor Xuanyu She's Emperor She S Emperor S Emperors SS Re S The consciousness of the Sea Emperor statue actually wanted to possess She's body, it was simply courting death. Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold, and the life and death yin-yang sword in her hand had already been unsheathed, wanting to cut off the connection between the Sea Emperor statue and Huang Fuxi. The people from the Sea Emperor's Dragon Court were all stopped by the people from the Black Field. When they saw Luo Qingtong's action, they couldn't help but cry out in alarm. Demonic doctor! Everyone was anxious, and the Sea Emperor was even more anxious. He rushed forward 2 steps and almost fell to the ground. Demonic doctor, you can't. Just as he spoke, the Sea Emperor statue seemed to have sensed Luo Qingtong's action. Chapter 1738. Boom! 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 Beams of light intertwined and fell from the sky in an instant. This was the defense of Sea Emperor Island built by the first Sea Emperor. At this moment, it was activated, forming a deadly force that blasted towards Luo Qingtong. Even if Martial Uncle Zhang was here, he would probably be blasted to pieces by the attack formed by these lights. Luo Qingtong's eyes were piercingly cold. The bloody light in her eyes flickered violently, and she was about to find the key point of this defense. At this moment, swoosh! A hand suddenly appeared at her waist and pulled her into an embrace. Then, there was a boom. An extremely majestic and vast power erupted from a figure that appeared beside Luo Qingtong in an instant. In the blink of an eye, the entire intertwined protective light, which had almost cut the entire sky, was blasted apart in an instant. Boom! The man standing beside Luo Qingtong had a cold look in his eyes. He was dressed in a black gilded robe with silver lining. In this explosion of protective light, he was like a god descending. Yi Qianxian raised his sleeve and waved. The protective light that gathered in the sky once again seemed to be frozen in midair. At the same time, Luo Qingtong's attack flew past Huang Fuxi and the Sea Emperor statue in an instant, cutting off the light that connected them. Bang! Huang Fuxi suddenly fell to the ground, his little face as pale as a sheet of gold paper. Sister! He looked at Luo Qingtong and glanced at the Sea Emperor statue. His eyes were full of fear. He was suddenly attacked when he was halfway through receiving the authority. Because he was unprepared, there was no way to resist. If Luo Qingtong hadn't discovered it, perhaps no one would have known that the soul in his body had changed. What was going on? Why did the Sea Emperor statue suddenly attack him? Huang Fuxi's face was full of horror. The Sea Emperor and the others also saw some clues from Huang Fuxi's unusual reaction. The Sea Emperor and the others found it hard to accept. The consciousness of the Sea Emperor statue actually wants to possess Shi-er. Especially Hai-Ho, she ran over and hugged Huang Fuxi, crying. Huangfu Shi had no chance to resist the Sea Emperor's consciousness that was trying to take over his body. This was too terrifying. If it weren't for Luo Qingtong, no one would have known that Huangfu Shi had died. The Sea Empress was terrified. She hugged Huangfu Shi tightly. After severing the connection between Huangfu Shi and the statue, Luo Qingtong looked up at Yi Qianxian. Qianren. She looked at the handsome face of the man above her head. He recovered. Luo Qingtong was pleasantly surprised. Yi Qianxian's expression was indifferent. He hugged Luo Qingtong and looked coldly at the statue of the Sea Emperor. He didn't care what the other party wanted to do, but if they dared to attack Luo Qingtong, then they were unforgivable. Boom! As Yi Qianxian raised his hand, the Sea Emperor statue seemed to be enveloped by an invisible palm in an instant. With a bang, its body suddenly exploded. In the next second, Yi Qianxian raised his hand and pulled out a ball of consciousness that was constantly twisting and struggling. That ball of consciousness formed a translucent figure in midair. It was 70 to 80% similar to the mermaid form that Huangfu Shi had transformed into for Luo Qingtong. Chapter 1739. The First Sea Emperor. The Sea Emperor and the others felt a chill in their hearts as they looked at the consciousness strength that had taken form. The members of the Sea Emperor's dragon court and the people around them were also shocked. The remnant consciousness of the first Sea Emperor was trying to possess Huangfu Shi. The people of the North region regarded the first Sea Emperor as a god, so they never expected this to happen. The people from the Sea Emperor's dragon court were even more shocked. They looked at the remnant consciousness that was being held by Yi Qianxian's power, and they had mixed feelings. The succession ceremony of the Sea Emperor's dragon court had always been very strange. Logically speaking, everyone was a direct descendant of the Sea Emperor, so it was understandable that the person with the purest bloodline and the strongest power was chosen to inherit the throne. But why did the person with the purest bloodline and the most powerful talent be chosen? All along, everyone thought that the first Sea Emperor wanted to choose the most worthy next generation to ensure that the talent of the Sea Emperor's bloodline could be passed down for a long time to come. However, they now knew that this was not the case at all. The reason why the first Sea Emperor set up such a succession ceremony was to prepare for his resurrection in the future. He wanted to choose the most suitable successor for his consciousness to possess. He was not choosing the successor of the Sea Emperor at all. He was choosing the body he wanted to possess. The reason why the previous generations of Sea Emperors were fine was because their forms had not yet reached its requirements. However, Huangfu Shi's transformation was 70 to 80% similar to his. Therefore, he chose Huangfu Shi immediately. After sorting out this layer of relationship, everyone looked at the remnant of the consciousness with an unusually complicated gaze. No one wanted to be possessed by someone else, even if that person was their ancestor. When they thought about how they had coveted the Sea Emperor's position before and how they were also in danger of being possessed by the Sea Emperor, everyone found it very difficult to accept. Bang! After the consciousness was grabbed by Yi Qianxian, it was still struggling with all its might. The entire Sea Emperor Island was faintly trembling. The 4 surrounding islands were in the midst of a buzzing sound as they suddenly soared into the sky and flew towards this side. The surrounding sea beasts and sea monsters were also in an uproar. Boom! 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 Waves that were thousands of feet high rolled up into the sky, and swept over in this direction as if the sky was falling and the earth was splitting. In just an instant, the entire Ocean Emperor Island seemed to be in the midst of a myriad of killing intent. Luo Qingtong frowned as she looked at the ball of consciousness in Yi Qianxian's hand. The Sea Emperor clan had the ability to control water currents and sea beasts. And this ability was even more vividly displayed by the first Ocean Emperor. They had to deal with him as soon as possible, otherwise, their troubles would be endless. However, this remnant consciousness seemed to have become one with Sea Emperor Island. Unless the island was destroyed, there was no way to deal with it. This was troublesome. Luo Qingtong frowned as she looked at the ball of consciousness energy. Then, she saw Yi Qianren's palm suddenly flip downwards. In an instant, the consciousness that was constantly twisting and struggling in his palm was sent into a golden bead. In an instant, the storm calmed down and the waves stopped. At this moment, the 4 floating islands returned to their original positions. Chapter 1740. Qianren, what is this? Luo Qingtong looked at the golden bead in Yi Qianqian's hand. After the ball of consciousness was injected into the golden bead, it immediately stopped moving. It was sealed inside and did not move at all. Luo Qingtong looked at it and had some guesses in her heart. To be able to cut off the connection between this ball of consciousness and Sea Emperor Island in an instant and seal the remnant consciousness of the first Sea Emperor, this should be the Sea Emperor's heart. Yi Qianqian's expression was indifferent. He had noticed that something was wrong with Luo Qingtong through the abnormal movements of the Sea Emperor's heart. Buzz! At this moment, the golden beads suddenly began to vibrate. It was the remnant consciousness of the first Sea Emperor inside that was unwilling to be sealed and was desperately vibrating. Yi Qianqian's eyes were cold as he looked at the ball of consciousness that was constantly struggling and trying to break out of the bead. Want to come out? He snorted coldly and raised his hand to inject the golden bead into Huang Fuxi's body below. Refine. His voice was cold, and his words were concise. After he finished speaking, he raised his hand and an aura enveloped Huang Fuxi, suppressing the golden bead in his body that was about to fly out. Huang Fuxi got up from the ground and the paleness on his face had not completely receded. Hearing this, he immediately began to operate the aura in his body subconsciously. The Sea Emperor's heart in his body jumped up in an instant. As the sacred object of the Sea Emperor's family, this Sea Emperor's heart was actually an object of the monster clan. Even the first Sea Emperor could not completely command it and make it submit, let alone let it be refined by Huang Fuxi. It was naturally unwilling. However, Yi Qianqian's aura that enveloped Huang Fuxi's body made it completely unable to resist. It could only be firmly bound in Huang Fuxi's body and constantly refined by him. Needless to say, the ball of consciousness of the first Sea Emperor in its body was even more terrifying. Huang Fuxi refined this Sea Emperor's heart and made it his own. It was also naturally refined and absorbed by Huang Fuxi. Its power was constantly being swallowed and absorbed by Huang Fuxi. As the Sea Emperor's heart was being refined more and more, it obeyed Huang Fuxi's orders and its power was being absorbed faster and faster. The possession failed and it was being swallowed instead. Only now did the remnant consciousness of the first Sea Emperor know what it meant to regret. If it had a chance to do it all over again, no matter how outstanding Huang Fuxi's talent was, or how similar his form was to his, it would never try to possess him again. That man who stood in the sky like a god was truly terrifying. His power actually contained the aura of the heavenly Tao, making it completely unable to resist. Not to mention, there was also the aura of a high-level monster clan's aura. How could there be such a person in the true Spill continent? The remnant consciousness was horrified. Then, with a loud bang, it was completely absorbed by Huang Fuxi with a shrill scream. His heart is its species. Bang! Huang Fuxi's aura soared in an instant. In just an instant, his aura skyrocketed. Chapter 1741. However, the remnant energy within it still raised his strength by 2 grades, allowing him to reach the saint stage in an instant. The heart of the Sea Emperor also floated above Huang Fuxi's head in an instant. When the Sea Emperor's heart floated out, the entire Sea Emperor Island and all the surrounding islands, including those that were extremely far away, began to tremble rapidly in an instant. Buzz! Screech! Sea beasts and sea monsters roared into the sky one after another, and the sound wave after wave spread to extremely far places. All the sea beasts in the entire North region seemed to roar at this moment, congratulating the birth of the new Sea Emperor. This was a treatment that none of the previous sea emperors had ever enjoyed. From now on, all the sea beasts and sea monsters in the north region would listen to Huang Fuxi's orders and dispatch. Countless waves and waves also surged into the sky at this moment, expressing their joy. The people of the Sea Emperor Dragon Court were dumbfounded. In the end, they all knelt on the ground and respectfully welcomed the birth of the new Sea Emperor. However, although they were congratulating Huang Fuxi, they were even more shocked by Yi Qianqian's godly means just now. He smashed the statue of the Sea Emperor with one palm and captured the consciousness of the first Sea Emperor with one hand. And that golden bead, even though the crowd did not hear what Yi Qianxian said to Luo Qingtong, judging from the fact that the first Sea Emperor's consciousness could not resist the golden bead at all, it was obvious that it was their sacred treasure, the heart of the Sea Emperor. The man sealed it with one hand and forced it to submit to Huang Fuxi and be refined by him. His godly power was simply indescribable. While the sea beasts roared in unison, in the distance, the people of the Breeze Pavilion, who were being dragged by the people of the Sea Emperor Dragon Court to feed the sea beasts, were completely devastated when they saw this scene from afar. In particular, Song Yan looked back at Yi Qianxian, who was standing in mid-air with a godlike aura and a domineering aura. Her heart instantly felt like it had been bombarded by something. Was this the Black Field Mingzun? The man who protected Luo Qingtong at all costs? Song Yan had not seen Yi Qianxian in the sacred capital of the Great Qi dynasty previously. When the man appeared in front of the people of the Breeze Pavilion, he had always been wearing a mask. Therefore, she did not know that the man who had endlessly protected Luo Qingtong would be so extraordinarily handsome. Looking at Yi Qianxian and Luo Qingtong, Song Yan felt unbearable pain, especially when Yi Qianxian was hugging Luo Qingtong in an extremely domineering manner. Song Yan's was unbearable pain. She had always thought that Dark Region Venerable was wearing a mask because he couldn't see anyone, and she had all kinds of dark speculations about how ugly and terrifying he was. Now that she had seen the man's true face, she finally realized how laughable all her previous guesses and thoughts were. Especially when she thought that Luo Qingtong would snatch Yan Yuju from her. In reality, as long as Luo Qingtong was not blind, she would not give up such a handsome and powerful man to snatch Yan Yuju from her. Even if she wanted to snatch Yan Yuju from her, she would be willing to give up. As long as the other party would give this man to her. Song Yan stared foolishly in Yi Qianqian's direction. Chapter 1742. He tilted his head slightly and glanced in Song Yan's direction. A look of disgust flashed across his eyes as he waved his sleeves. Bam! An extremely ferocious and domineering aura shot out in an instant. It passed through half of Sea Emperor Island and slammed into Song Yan. Ah! She screamed as she fell into the sea beside her. In an instant, the starving sea beasts that the third princess of the Sea Emperor had trapped in that area of the sea swarmed over and tore her to shreds. Ah! Song Yan's screams were endless. The rest of the people from the Breeze Pavilion were also pushed into the sea after the people from the Sea Emperor's royal court had knelt down to pay their respects. They were then eaten up by the sea beasts. Luo Qingtong sensed something when Yi Qianxian made his move. She turned her head and looked in that direction. Then, she looked at Yi Qianxian and asked, "What's wrong?" "Nothing." Yi Qianren's eyes were indifferent, but they were extremely cold and sinister. He hated it when people looked at him with that kind of covetous gaze. It was disgusting. Other than Luo Qingtong, he didn't like anyone else looking at him with that kind of gaze. He had come in a hurry this time. After he returned to his human form, he sensed that something had happened to Luo Qingtong and forgot to put on his mask. Yi Qianqian's expression was cold, and the aura around him was extremely cold. He raised his hand and put a dark golden mask on his face, covering his handsome face that was enraged by the heavens and the people. At this moment, Huang Fuxi had also recovered from his extreme excitement. "Brother-in-law, thank you!" he shouted happily. As soon as he said this, Bei Qing and Feng Yu, who had rushed over behind Yi Qianxian, looked at him strangely. This little boy is really something. The way he called him brother-in-law really resonated with their master's heart. The benefits he would receive would be endless. As expected, when Yi Qianxian heard Huang Fuxi's words, he narrowed his eyes and smirked. Feng Yu. Yi Qianxian waved his sleeves. In an instant, something flew out from his sleeve and shot towards Feng Yu. Feng Yu hurriedly caught it with a respectful look on his face. Master. Give it to the Sea Emperor. Yi Qianxian's expression was indifferent. Yes. Feng Yu replied. When he realized what he was holding, he sighed in his heart. This little Shota really hit the jackpot. Calling him a brother-in-law, in exchange for such a treasure, if the people outside were to find out, who knows how many people would die of envy. Ocean Emperor, this is a gift from my master. Please accept it. He walked up to the Sea Emperor and raised his hand to present the item to him. This is. The Ocean Emperor looked at the things that Bei Qing had given him with the help of the people around him. His entire body trembled uncontrollably. Not because of anything else, but because this item that Bei Qing had given him exuded an extremely strong, demon power. The Sea Emperor's heart was filled with excitement when he saw this majestic and vigorous energy. This is the heart of the heavenly demon fox. Feng Yu said in a low voice, Sea Emperor, if you consume it, you can regain your talent and increase your lifespan by 100 years. Please accept it, Sea Emperor. The heart of the heavenly demon fox was only useful to the demon race. When Yi Qianxian killed the heavenly demon fox, he deliberately kept it for himself. Chapter 1743. But even so, it was already a great benefit. With the heart of the heavenly fox, the Sea Emperor could continue to purify and condense his demon clan bloodline in the future, making his form more complete and closer to becoming a half-demon. It could be said that the benefits of the heart of the heavenly fox to him were unimaginable. Hearing Feng Yu's words, the Sea Emperor and the rest instantly felt as if a huge pie had fallen from the sky. The heart of the heavenly fox. I can still cultivate in the future. And it can increase my lifespan by 100 years. The Sea Emperor looked at the heart of the heavenly fox in the brocade box in Feng Yu's hands. His voice trembled, as if he was in a dream. And the people around him were even more surprised and happy. They looked at the man standing high in the air in horror. They had no way to imagine how powerful he was to be able to obtain something like the heart of the heavenly fox. The heavenly fox, that was a high-level demon clan. And how powerful the demon clan was, they could see it in the ancient books of their clan. Everyone was shocked. And Huang Fuxi was so happy that he almost jumped up. He tried his best to suppress his urge to rush to the Sea Emperor and said excitedly, "That's great, Father. You can still cultivate in the future and live well." Father. Huang Fuxi was too happy in his heart. He was not stupid. No matter how the Sea Emperor comforted him and said that he would be fine, he clearly knew that the Sea Emperor would not live for long. His lifespan was almost exhausted. Even if he forced himself to hold on, it would only be a few years. But this time, he would be fine. Huang Fuxi was so happy that his face turned red. If he had not promised the Sea Emperor that he would not be childish in the future, he would have rushed into Luo Qingtong's arms. "Thank you, sister, brother-in-law. Thank you." Huang Fuxi was so happy that he kept thanking them. "You're welcome." Luo Qingtong looked at him and chuckled. She glanced at the man beside her. She was afraid that little she did not know that the heart of the heavenly fox was exchanged for by him unintentionally calling him a brother-in-law. Luo Qingtong looked at Yi Qianxian and stifled a laugh. When did this man become so childish and childish? How could a mere title make him so happy? However, Luo Qingtong didn't know that Yi Qianxian was so happy because it was related to her. She was the only one he wanted to do with. He didn't have the time to participate in her past, but he would accompany her to the end in her future. After the Sea Emperor recovered, everything in the Sea Emperor's dragon court was cleaned up very quickly. All those who had betrayed the Sea Emperor and followed the third princess were purged and punished. Because he had received Luo Qingtong's promise that they would be allies in the future, the Sea Emperor wasn't worried that the Sea Emperor's dragon court would have no one to rely on because of his purge. Thus, his methods were extremely swift and decisive. It must be mentioned that the third princess of the Sea Emperor didn't die in the end. But she was in more pain than death. This was because the Sea Emperor's dragon court suffered heavy losses in the rebellion of the third princess of the Sea Emperor. After a unanimous decision, the third princess of the Sea Emperor's strength was crippled, her limbs were cut off, and she was sent to a brothel to be used as a fertility machine. She would spend the rest of her life under someone else's body. She would be in so much pain that she wished she was dead. Chapter 1744. Ha ha ha. Don't. On the sky-high flying ship, laughter that was as clear as silver bells rang out. Bei Qing, Feng Yu, and the others stood at the front of the control panel, motionless. They looked straight ahead, afraid that they would see something they shouldn't see. Behind them, on the bed that was usually used for resting, Luo Qingtong was laughing while trying to avoid Yi Qianxian. The man was dressed in black, tall, handsome, and domineering. However, no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't do anything to Luo Qingtong. The young girl arched her body, tightly protecting something in her bosom, not letting Yi Qianren snatch it away. Afraid of hurting her, Yi Qianxian couldn't use his strength. He looked at her and suddenly gritted his teeth. Luo Qingtong. He roared in a low voice. I'll say it again, give it to me. I won't. Luo Qingtong stuck out her tongue at him with a sly look. Did this man think that she would be afraid if he called himself I? She wasn't Bei Qing or Feng Yu. Yi Qianming was so angry that his head hurt. Why do you still want to keep those things? I'm telling you, you'd better give up the unrealistic fantasy in your mind. He would never do what she thought he would do. You know what I'm thinking again. Luo Qingtong looked at Yi Qianxian's dark face and chuckled. Seeing that he was about to take it again, she immediately arched her body again. Anyway, no matter how angry this man was, he wouldn't do anything to her. She wasn't afraid of him. What's more, didn't he always say that she was spoiled? If she didn't get angry, she would be sorry for being a scapegoat for so long. Luo Qingtong thought so and immediately looked at Yi Qianxian with a pair of sparkling eyes, proud and provocative, as if to say, come and take it if you can. I don't believe you can. Yi Qianxian couldn't help but grind his teeth when he saw her smug and arrogant expression. However, he really couldn't do anything to this woman. He couldn't bear to hurt her, couldn't bear to touch her, and could only allow her to be impudent in front of him. Yi Qianxian felt that the greatest calamity in his life was not that the heavens wanted to deal with him, but that he had met Luo Qingtong. He looked coldly at Luo Qingtong, the veins on his forehead bulging. Finally, he gritted his teeth and compromised, I'll leave you one. Without waiting for Luo Qingtong to speak, he coldly said, you're not allowed to bargain with me. Otherwise, don't even think about keeping a single item. If she had the ability, then she should continue to maintain this posture without moving. Otherwise, he would be able to snatch her away sooner or later. Luo Qingtong's eyes turned slightly. She knew that this was the man's bottom line. All right. She agreed readily. But I have the final say on which one to keep. She looked at Yi Qianyun with a cunning and evil look. The man snorted coldly and looked at her without saying anything, which meant that he agreed. Luo Qingtong immediately let go of the item in her arms. It turned out to be a useless ring. It contained all the little things that Luo Qingtong had made for Yi Qianxian when he was a silver treasure. Yi Qianqian's identity had been exposed, so naturally, he wouldn't let Luo Qingtong hold on to his dark history. Luo Qingtong took out a small cloth mouse and handed the useless ring to Yi Qianxian. Yi Qianxian's face darkened as he looked at the little cloth mouse, which still had small teeth and claw marks left on it. Chapter 1745. The voices of Bei Qing, Feng Yu, and the others sounded from the front. Master, the evil doctor, we've arrived at Great Chu. Grandfather. Luo Qingtong's figure appeared above the palace gates of Great Chu and rushed towards Grandfather Luo and Empress Dowager Yan Shi, who had been waiting for her. Ha! Qingtong, it's good that you're back, it's good that you're back. Grandfather Luo looked at Luo Qingtong's figure with joy. It's good that my granddaughter is back. Ever since Luo Qingtong left, Grandfather Luo had been worried. Although he knew that Yi Qianxian, the Blackfield's underworld revered, was by Luo Qingtong's side, the latter should be fine. But he couldn't feel at ease until he saw Luo Qingtong return safely. Good, good, good. Seeing that Luo Qingtong was unscathed, Grandfather Luo was overjoyed. At this moment, his eyes suddenly focused on Luo Qingtong. You. Grandfather Luo was pleasantly surprised. He looked at Luo Qingtong's aura in disbelief and stuttered. His granddaughter's aura and power, Saint Realm. He looked at his granddaughter's faintly discernible strength and power in shock. This power was far beyond the Saint Realm. Oh my God! I can't take it anymore. Grandfather Luo supported Empress Dowager Yan Shi with his hand, his face dizzy. I guess I'm a little dizzy and my eyes are playing tricks on me. Luo Qingtong looked at her grandfather's incredulous expression and couldn't help but laugh. Grandfather, you're right. She suddenly released the power around her, and the power of a Saint Realm expert was instantly revealed. Luo Qingtong retracted her aura and looked at Grandfather Luo and Empress Dowager Yan Shi's shocked expressions. She chuckled and said, I'm indeed a Saint Realm expert, oh my God. Old man Luo stared at Luo Qingtong, dumbfounded. Even Empress Dowager Yan Shi, who had always been calm and indifferent to honor and disgrace, could not hide the shock and regret on her face. Qingtong. You. Both of them were shocked, speechless. Luo Qingtong's face was full of smiles. She glanced at old Master Luo's soft legs and felt a sense of pity. Unfortunately, on this trip to Bright Moon Island, he didn't find any medicinal herbs that could treat old Master Luo's legs. Otherwise, Grandpa Luo's legs would return to normal. Luo Qingtong's eyes were filled with regret. Yi Qianxian watched from the side. He held her fingertips gently and transmitted a message to her in a low voice, don't worry. I've already asked Bei Qing and the others to send a message to the outside world. Look out for the best herbs for bone regeneration. They'll send them over as soon as they have them. Old Master Luo's injury was troublesome because all the bones in his legs had been shattered by him. This was not something that could be solved by ordinary bone regeneration. Since the bones in his legs had been shattered to such an extent, they could only find medicinal herbs that could regenerate bones from nothing. Only then could they refine the kind of bone regeneration pill. Moreover, they had to do it without harming his body or damaging his future cultivation foundation. This was not easy to find. Otherwise, Yi Qianxian would have sent the medicine over when old Master Luo was injured. Yes. Luo Qingtong responded in a low voice. She also knew that this matter could not be rushed. Old Master Luo's health was more important. As for Feng Wan, who had caused old Master Luo to become like this, Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold. Chapter 1746. The wounds that old Master Luo had suffered, he would make her pay back 1,000,000 times over. And somewhere in the true Spill continent, in an extremely dark and damp corner, countless snakes, insects, rats, and ants were constantly crawling around. A rotten smell wafted through the air. A lump of meat that seemed like a human but wasn't a human, seemed like a ghost but wasn't a ghost. It was a horrifying scene. Alright, there's still a bit more before the channel to the outer realms completely opens. At that time, you'll be able to leave this place. A blue smoke appeared in the air above the lump of meat. He frowned as he looked at the squirming lump of meat that was swallowing up the snakes, insects, rats, and ants. My strength has been completely exhausted. Feng Yuan, after leaving the true Spill continent, everything will be up to you. Don't cause any more trouble. It's impossible for me to save you again. To open the channel to the outer realms from the true Spill continent was an extremely terrifying consumption for this blue smoke. He wouldn't be able to wake up for at least 3 years. After Feng Yuan arrived at the outer realms, he could only rely on himself. If it weren't for the fact that he had no other choice, he would never sacrifice himself like this. Shut up. As the blue smoke's voice sounded out, the lump of meat that was crawling amongst the countless snakes, insects, rats, and ants suddenly rose up, revealing half of its face. It was Feng Yuan. If it weren't for you not telling me that Luo Qingtong had different pupils, and even blood pupils at that, how could I have lost so miserably to her? Feng Yuan's voice was filled with anger. Her voice was mixed with pain and moans. You never told me that Luo Qingtong had supreme blood pupils. What are those things? You told me that there was no such thing as blood pupils among the different pupils. The blue smoke had told her many things about different pupils, but she had never mentioned blood pupils. If the blue smoke had told her about blood pupils, then how could she have been tricked by Luo Qingtong again and again? It was impossible for her to have allowed her to grow to the point where she could threaten her. This was all the fault of the green smoke. The meatball that Feng Yuan had turned into struggled crazily on the ground. The reason why she had become like this was all because of him. I also didn't expect her to have the sovereign blood eye. Qingyan's voice was filled with anger, and there was an indescribable fear in it. That's impossible. In this world, how could there be a second pair of paragon blood eyes? If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, how could he have believed it? What the hell is going on? Feng Yuan questioned. Aren't Luo Qingtong's blood-red pupils heterochromatic pupils? Why can't it appear? You don't need to know why. Angered by Feng Yuan's questioning, the green smoke's voice was ice-cold. He didn't want to recall anything about the sovereign blood eye. It was a nightmare. And that nightmare had long passed. It was impossible for that person to return. Just focus on your cultivation. If there's a chance in the future, you might be able to seize that woman's blood-red pupils. The sovereign blood eye was unparalleled in the world. If Feng Yuan could obtain it, he would also be able to benefit from it. What? Hearing this, Feng Yuan stopped struggling. Can heterochromatic pupils be seized? Then why didn't he let her seize Luo Qingtong's pair of clear eyes? Chapter 1747. Humph. Qingyan snorted coldly. Of course not. But hers is different. Because it was the only pair of unique supreme being blood eyes in the world. Then, is she the one you were talking about? Feng Yuan's voice was full of resentment and jealousy. He couldn't take other people's eyes, but Luo Qingtong's could. Didn't that mean that her blood-red eyes were superior to all other eyes? Wasn't she the destined one? Humph, destined one. Qingyan hissed coldly. Compared to her, I'm nothing. At this point, he didn't want to say anything more. At this moment, a long and narrow passage appeared in front of him. It was the passageway to the outer realm that he had opened earlier. Okay, you can go in. As he spoke, his figure became extremely thin and transparent in an instant, and then disappeared into Feng Yuan's body in the next second. At the same time, the long and narrow passage shone brightly and swallowed Feng Yuan's body. In the sacred capital of Great Chu, Luo Qingtong stayed in the imperial palace of Great Chu for a few days. She gave some of the wood spirit to grandfather Luo and asked him to give it to some of the Luo family's outstanding disciples. Then, she went to the sacred academy of the Empire of Qin with Yi Qianxian. In the sacred academy of the Empire of Qin, little tyrant Yuan and the others returned to the sacred academy of the Empire of Qin with the Grand Dean and the others after the Four Academy tournament ended. Luo Qingtong wasn't there, and they didn't delay their cultivation. As far as they were concerned, they were truly too weak. They couldn't share Luo Qingtong's worries at all. They weren't qualified to stand beside Luo Qingtong. When the Breeze Pavilion's people played tricks and cancelled the results of the Four Academy tournament and the quota, everyone in the sacred academy of the Empire of Qin was furious. But they forgot about it and went back to their own training. The people of the Breeze Pavilion probably thought that going to the hidden world was everyone's goal. However, for little tyrant Yuan, Su Xiaoxiao, and the others, being able to stand by Luo Qingtong's side and become her shield and sword was their life's greatest pursuit. Everything else didn't matter to them. Boss. In Sky Hall's training ground, little tyrant Yuan and the others had just come out of the training ground when they saw Luo Qingtong, who was standing hand in hand with Yi Qianren and looking at them with a smile. Boss, you're back. He almost jumped 3 feet high and rushed over. Sima Ju, Ling Tianhan and the others came out from behind him. Seeing him so excited that he couldn't control himself, they were stunned. Then, they all followed and surrounded him. Boss! Boss! The crowd surrounded Luo Qingtong, almost pushing Yi Qianxian to the side. Yi Qianxian's face was cold, thinking about how to send them flying. At this moment, little tyrant Yuan glanced at Yi Qianxian, who had a dark face and was emitting an extremely powerful and terrifying aura. His heart trembled fiercely. Then, he saw Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianxian holding hands and fell silent. Hey! He raised his hand and poked Sima Ju, who was beside him, and asked in a low voice, "How should I address boss's man?" He hadn't come into contact with this before. Sister-in-law. No, big brother. That didn't seem right. Chapter 1748. It did seem like a problem to address him this way. I think, maybe, we should call him brother-in-law. Ling Yu said uncertainly. This title should be correct, right? Luo Qingtong was their boss, their big sister. It seemed all right for them to call her man brother-in-law. Brother-in-law my ass. Little tyrant Yuan wished he could beat her to death. You're openly taking advantage of our boss. Then, how about we call her sister-in-law? No, I think, we should call him brother-in-law. The group of people were discussing excitedly at the side. But they didn't know that with Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianxian's strength, they could hear their whispers very clearly. In an instant, the veins on Yi Qianxian's forehead kept throbbing. His handsome face hidden behind the dark golden mask was so dark that ink was about to drip out. Luo Qingtong was laughing so hard that she almost choked. This group of jokers. Seeing that their discussion was getting more and more ridiculous, and that they were actually planning to come over and call them, Luo Qingtong hurriedly spoke up to stop them from courting death. Otherwise, if they really called them out, Yi Qianxian would explode, and she wouldn't be able to hold him back. Wait. She held back her laughter and said to them, I have something to give you. Come back to the dormitory with me. Yes. The group had always taken Luo Qingtong's words as a standard. Hearing this, they immediately followed her to the dormitory. As for calling Yi Qianxian, they had completely forgotten about it. Fortunately, they had forgotten, or else, in the dark, Bei Qing, Feng Yu, and the others looked at their master's dark face and instantly broke out in cold sweat for little tyrant Yuan and the others. After calling little tyrant Yuan and the others back to the dormitory, Luo Qingtong took out the wood spirit in her hand. Here, one for each of you. After taking it, how much you can improve depends on you. However, no matter how much your strength has improved in the end, it won't be a problem for you to cultivate to the sage realm in the future. The effect of the wood spirit was not as powerful as the holy land flower that Luo Qingtong had taken before. After taking it, Luo Qingtong immediately broke through to the holy land. Even so, Yuan Little Overlord and the others wouldn't have any problems breaking through to the saint realm in the future. And according to Luo Qingtong's estimation, with the temperament and tenacity of Little Overlord Yuan and the others, it was not impossible for them to directly break through to the sage realm this time. Boss? Little Overlord Yuan and the others were shocked when they saw the wood spirits that Luo Qingtong took out. Especially Sima Ju and Ling Tianhan. Their strength and talent were the strongest among the group, and they were also the first to reach the martial spirit realm. They were desperately trying to break through to the saint realm, but they couldn't find a way to do so. At this time, Luo Qingtong took out the wood spirit that could help them break through to the sage realm. In the future, they would be one step closer to Luo Qingtong. Boss! Everyone was extremely excited. Yuan the Little Overlord immediately jumped to his feet. Oh! Boss! I want to repay you with my body. As soon as he said this, he suddenly felt an extremely cold murderous aura coming at him. Little tyrant Yuan quivered in an instant. He quickly changed his words and said, to Little Pig. As soon as he said this, everyone looked at him as if he was a beast. Shameless! In order to please Boss, he wouldn't even let Little Pig go. Chapter 1749. Fortunately, Little Pig wasn't here. Otherwise, he would have been angered to his true form. Damn it, he didn't like this damn fatty either. Luo Qingtong looked at them with a smile. After Little Tyrant Yuan and the others took the wood spirit, they were about to tell Luo Qingtong that they would catch up with her as soon as possible when they suddenly realized that their boss had advanced again. And this time, she was in the saint realm. Everyone stared dumbfoundedly at the faintly discernible aura that surrounded Luo Qingtong. Because it was in front of them, Luo Qingtong didn't deliberately hide it. BBBB boss. Everyone stuttered, almost unable to believe their eyes. Boss, you're in the saint realm. Finally, Little Tyrant Yuan, the thick-skinned one, asked what was on their minds. Yes. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. She didn't want to hide it from them in the first place. Otherwise, with her concealment methods, they wouldn't be able to see her aura and strength at all. Little Tyrant Yuan and the others had to know that the saint realm was never the end of their strength as long as they followed her. They still needed to become stronger. Oh my God! Little Tyrant Yuan and the others, who were still incomparably excited, instantly looked as if someone had poured a bucket of cold water on them. They originally thought that after their strength rose to the saint realm, they would be able to catch up with Luo Qingtong. But unexpectedly, their boss's strength had already risen to the saint realm at this time. What right did they have to tease and play here? Everyone's expression became incomparably solemn at this time. I'm going to the training ground to cultivate in seclusion. Sima Ju held the wood spirit in his hand, turned around without hesitation, and left without looking back. Behind him, Ling Tianhan, Ling Yu-Her, Su Xiaoxiao, Little Tyrant Yuan, and the others all followed him and left. I'm going too. I'm going too. In an instant, the group of people left without a trace. It wasn't that they didn't want to stay and chat with Luo Qingtong a little longer. But without strength, what right did they have to stay by Luo Qingtong's side? If they could only become Luo Qingtong's burden in the future, they would rather die in the training ground. The group of people left thoroughly. Luo Qingtong looked at their departing backs and smiled. She believed that they could do it. Qianming, let's go find the Grand Dean. Luo Qingtong had promised the Grand Supreme Dean that she would treat his injuries when she was strong enough. But now, it was completely possible. Yes. Yi Qianming's face indifference t-tes-est, t-s writes t-t-t-ts right. T's, t-t-t's, t-t-tes his, t's yi, t-machin yi was dressed in green, and the aura around him became more and more stable and restrained. He looked at the place where Luo Qintong and Yi Qianming disappeared, and his eyes narrowed slightly. There's no need. He had already seen them, so there was no need to go in. He wasn't qualified to appear by Luo Qingtong's side yet. When his strength was enough to help her, he would appear in front of her again. Ma Qingyi turned and left. Looking at his departing back, Yu Qingwei pursed her lips heavily. Mo Chenai, do you really not see me in your eyes at all? Chapter 1750. You always think that what happened between us was just a joke. But you know, I never thought that it was a joke. Yu Qingwei pursed her lips. She looked at the place where Luo Qingtong disappeared. Luo Qingtong, I will try my best to catch up with you. If he can only see you, then I will try my best to catch up with you. In this way, when he sees you, he can also see me, right? Even if it's just a little. Yu Qingwei left without looking back. At this moment, Luo Qingtong had already appeared in front of the Grand Supreme Dean with Yi Qianming. Grand Supreme Dean. She had a smile on her face, but the latter jumped up at this moment. Evil Dr. Kid. The Grand Supreme Dean looked at Luo Qingtong in surprise, then his eyes widened. You. What's wrong with you, kid? He looked at the faintly discernible aura around Luo Qingtong. Saint Realm. Yes. Luo Qingtong looked at the Grand Supreme Dean with a smile. I'm already in the Saint Realm. Grand Supreme Dean, let me treat your injury. Wait, the Grand Supreme Dean held his forehead. Then in the next second, he jumped up from his chair and pointed at Yi Qianxian, scolding, You, surnamed Yi, what's going on? How did her strength increase so much all of a sudden? Did you use some kind of spoiling method on her? The Grand Supreme Dean shouted and stomped his feet. He was so angry that he didn't even care about Yi Qianxian's identity as the Blackfield's Underworld Senior. Anyway, with Luo Qingtong around, he couldn't do anything to him. He stomped his feet and looked at Yi Qianxian with a pained expression. Do you know what an unstable foundation means to her in the future? Even if you think that her strength is lower than yours, you can't do this. You're simply trying to destroy her. The Grand Supreme Dean was furious. Luo Qingtong had always been a student and a good seedling that he thought highly of. Now that such a good seedling was about to be ruined by Yi Qianxian, how could he not be angry? Yes, Luo Qingtong's strength had been raised by Yi Qianxian. However, the method of spoiling things through excessive enthusiasm was not stable. Luo Qingtong could not go far in the future. With this thought in mind, the Grand Supreme Dean felt like punching Yi Qianxian to death. If not for the fact that he was no match for Yi Qianxian, he would have rushed forward and taught him a lesson. No one would do such a thing. He wanted to break Luo Qingtong's wings so that she could only stay by his side and rely on his protection like a canary. This was supposed to be a phoenix that soared above the 9 heavens. The more the Grand Supreme Dean thought about it, the angrier he became. In the end, he couldn't help but roll up his sleeves and rush forward. Luo Qingtong looked at his angry and speechless appearance and felt a burst of warmth in her heart. Seeing that he was about to rush over with his sleeves rolled up, she hurriedly stopped him. Wait! Grand Supreme Dean, you've misunderstood. Seeing that he was stomping his feet and asking her not to protect Yi Qianxian, Luo Qingtong felt a burst of amusement and gratitude. There's no problem with my strength. Grand Supreme Dean, you've misunderstood Qianren. Chapter 1751. In an instant, the expression on the Grand Supreme Dean's face froze. Ha! Ha! His face was filled with embarrassment. The aura that Luo Qingtong released was thick and solid, surging violently. It was not something that could be achieved by forcefully increasing it. Not to mention that she was able to retract and release this aura freely. It was obvious that her understanding of the realm was very solid. Oh my, where did this evil doctor kid get such an opportunity? Who would have thought that her strength would jump 3 or 2 times a day? It was no wonder that his thoughts were crooked. The corner of the Grand Supreme Dean's mouth twitched. He looked at Yi Qianming, who was standing beside Luo Qingtong with a dark and cold expression. He felt an indescribable guilt in his heart. Cough. He coughed lightly and was about to say something when Yi Qianming's cold voice rang out. This honorable one will never do anything that is disadvantageous to her, no matter what the outcome is. As he spoke, he looked at the Grand Supreme Dean with an icy gaze. There will be no next time for today's matter. He did not care if the other party misunderstood him, but he could not do anything related to Luo Qingtong. Cough cough cough. Yes, yes, yes. I understand. The Grand Supreme Dean coughed violently and hurriedly agreed. There was no other way. Who asked him to be in the wrong? Fortunately, there was no one else here. Otherwise, he would have lost a lot of face. The Grand Supreme Dean thought and immediately changed the topic. That's right, evil Dr. Brat, didn't you say that you were going to treat my injuries? Hurry up. I don't know how long I've been waiting. The Grand Supreme Dean had never thought that there would be a day when his injuries could be cured. He was overjoyed and almost hurriedly waved at Luo Qingtong. As for the previous awkwardness, he had completely thrown it to the back of his mind. Luo Qingtong looked at him and held back her laughter. She did not deliberately keep him in suspense. Instead, she directly walked in front of him and began to treat his injuries. Boom! Under Luo Qingtong's precise treatment, the terrifying energy occupying the Grand Dean's body was slowly removed by Luo Qingtong. Speaking of this, it must be mentioned that Luo Qingtong could see through her Do technique that the entrenched power in the Grand Supreme Dean's body was very strong, but she didn't know how strong it was. Now that she had come into contact with it and gotten rid of it, she realized that this power was far stronger than she had imagined. In the past, she had thought that the Saint Realm would be able to eradicate these forces. Now that she had come into contact with it, she realized that the power of the Sage Realm was not enough. She was only barely able to accomplish this with the strength of a saint. Moreover, this was because her strength was far stronger than ordinary Saint Realm experts. Otherwise, even with the assistance of his eye technique, he wouldn't be able to completely deal with these forces. The Grand Principal was probably not an ordinary person. Luo Qingtong looked thoughtful. Boom boom boom. Luo Qingtong slowly removed the power from the Grand Dean's body. His strength was also rapidly recovering and increasing, surpassing the Saint Realm, the Saint Realm, the Sage Realm. By the time Luo Qingtong had removed all the power occupying his body, his strength had already increased to the level of a Saint General. He was only a little bit away from breaking through to the Saint General realm. This was because the power occupying the Grand Supreme Dean's body had just been removed and had not fully recovered. Otherwise, his strength would have increased by another 1 or 2 levels. Chapter 1752. As for the Grand Dean, after feeling the surging power in his body that he hadn't felt for a long time, he laughed loudly. Ha ha ha. I finally got rid of those damn things. Ha ha ha. As he spoke, his body suddenly burst with crackling sounds. Then, a much younger Grand Dean appeared in front of Luo Qingtong. His face was like jade and his eyes were like cold stars. He was very handsome and didn't look more than 30 years old. Ha ha ha. The Grand Dean laughed heartily. As his strength recovered, his face also returned to how it was before his strength was damaged. It was really great. Thank you. Evil Dr. Baby. If you have any problems in the future, just tell me. As long as I, Shu Yi, can do it, I will never say no. The Grand Supreme Dean's face was filled with excitement. He didn't know how many ways to get rid of the power in his body, but it didn't have any effect. If he hadn't met Luo Qingtong, he didn't know how long he would be suppressed. This evil Dr. Baby was really his lucky star and savior. The Grand Dean was extremely happy. Luo Qingtong looked at him and smiled. Grand Dean, with your strength, you should be from the hidden world, right? Cough. Yes. When she mentioned the hidden world, the Grand Dean felt very unnatural. But he also knew that this matter couldn't be hidden, so he didn't deny it. Oh, then will the Grand Dean still go to the hidden world? Let's go together. Luo Qingtong looked at him and asked. Cough. Not going, not going. I'm not interested in that place. The Holy Court of the Empire of Qin still needs me. I'll just stay here. Not knowing what he thought, the Grand Dean waved his hand for a while, as if he was afraid to avoid it. Luo Qingtong looked at him and raised her eyebrows. Just as she was about to speak, Yi Qianming's cold voice sounded from the side. It's hard to repay a love debt, of course he doesn't dare to go. Yi Qianming's words had just reached this point when the Grand Dean jumped up like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. You, how did you know? He stared at Yi Qianming with bulging eyes. Yi Qianming snorted and ignored him. At this moment, swoosh. A golden arrow quickly flew over and appeared in front of Yi Qianming. Swoosh. He raised his hand and caught it. As his thoughts ran through it, his expression instantly froze. Qingtong, let's go back to the black field. All right. Seeing his expression, of course, Luo Qingtong didn't say anything more. Yi Qianming raised his hand and pulled her over. The two of them disappeared in an instant. Hey! Mings! The Grand Supreme Dean was hopping mad as he watched them leave. You of T-test. Are you F asterisk 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 T? The Grand Dean of the Grand Ming. Of ye of SSTTT of Holy Court of Qin TT, returned to the main city. S Bei Qing and Fengyu, who had been waiting on the flying boat for a long time, responded in unison. In the blink of an eye, the Atlas flying ship shot out like a sharp arrow. Swoosh! As the flying boat flew out, Luo Qingtong looked at the man beside her and asked, Qianming, what happened? Why are you in such a hurry? Chapter 1753. Chu Lingfeng is missing. In the far west wilderness, after Yi Qianming received Chu Lingfeng's message, he sent him to the Blackfield's main city to recuperate. The latter's injuries were too serious. His blood and strength had almost been sucked dry. If it weren't for Chu Lingfeng's physique being different from ordinary people, he would have died long ago. But even so, his situation wasn't optimistic. Yi Qianming sent him to the Blackfield's main city to ask Elder Yu to treat Chu Lingfeng. Otherwise, Luo Qingtong wouldn't feel good. However, just now, Elder Yu suddenly sent him a message saying that Chu Lingfeng was missing. Shua! In the Blackfield's main city, Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianming's figures flew out of the Atlas flying ship. Yi Qianming held Luo Qingtong in his arms and appeared in the medicine hall in a flash. Hey, little Yi, you're back. And you, the little evil doctor girl, are also here. In the medicine hall, Elder Yu frowned. No one knew what he was thinking. When he heard the noise, he immediately raised his head. Yes. Luo Qingtong didn't bother with small talk. She went straight to him and asked, Elder Yu, what happened to Chu Lingfeng? How did he disappear? There were many masters in the Blackfield's main city. Chu Lingfeng was injured, so it was impossible for him to leave by himself. But if someone came to snatch him, who could snatch him from the many masters in the Blackfield's main city? Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianming had just returned. They clearly didn't find any traces of battle in the Blackfield's main city. Oh, you mean that big fool? His situation is really strange. Hearing Luo Qingtong ask about Chu Lingfeng, Elder Yu's brows instantly twisted. I saw him disappear in front of me with my own eyes. Girl, I'm afraid your subordinate isn't from the true Spill continent, right? At least not all of them. He said and looked at Luo Qingtong. The girl's brows slightly twisted. His life experience is somewhat unusual, that's right. Elder Yu said, I studied it carefully for a long time. If I'm not wrong, he should have been summoned by his blood relatives using a special method. Elder Yu said, his blood is very special. At that time, all the blood in his body boiled, and then he was wrapped in a golden light and disappeared. Hearing his words, Luo Qingtong frowned. A blood relative related to Chu Lingfeng. Yin Nyang's side was definitely impossible. Then, was it Chu Lingfeng's father, whom he had never met before? Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong's frown deepened. Elder Yu SSSSS. Okay. Elder Yu said and led Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianming to the place where Chu Lingfeng was recuperating. That big blockhead disappeared here. He said and pointed to the couch in the room. Okay. Luo Qingtong's eyes flashed. The bloody light in her eyes flickered. Soon, the whole scene in the room was replayed in her eyes. Boz. Luo Qingtong's SS eyes clearly showed the scene of Chu Lingfeng's disappearance. The blood in his body started to boil and wrapped around him tightly. Then, his figure disappeared in the middle. As for Chu Lingfeng's boiling blood, it was golden in color. Luo Qingtong's eyes flashed fiercely. Soon, she realized that a ray of light was being pulled out of the blood and disappeared into the void. Chapter 1754. With a pop, the blood-red light in her eyes suddenly extinguished, and her body involuntarily staggered forward. Qingtong. Yi Qianqian's eyes narrowed, and he raised his hand to pull her into his embrace. I'm fine. Luo Qingtong shook her head and looked towards the direction where the light had disappeared. The power contained within was too strong. Her current strength was not enough to support her eye technique to trace the direction in which the other party had left. However, according to what she had just seen, Chu Lingfeng's disappearance was most likely related to his father, whom she had never met. Moreover, it was likely related to his own physique. Perhaps Chu Lingfeng's severe injuries had stimulated some changes in his physique, attracting his father's attention. This caused the other party to sense his existence and use the bloodline connection to summon him. The other party's strength was not ordinary, and it was obvious that they were from the outer realms. Luo Qingtong frowned. Qianren, I need to make a trip to Wild City. She had to tell Yen Nyang about this. All right. Yi Qianxian looked at her and nodded. He could see that Luo Qingtong had used the same method she had used to track down the whereabouts of grandfather Luo to investigate Chu Lingfeng's whereabouts, but she had not been able to find anything. Obviously, the other party was not from the true Spill continent, and their strength was very strong, far beyond the scope of Luo Qingtong's ability. As for Chu Lingfeng's matter, I will have Bei Qing inform the people outside to pay more attention. You don't have to worry too much. His voice was low. Since Chu Lingfeng is of the other party's bloodline, and he has also inherited that person's physique, the other party should not do anything to him. This may not be a bad thing for him. Luo Qingtong looked at him and nodded, then her figure flashed and disappeared into the air. Then, a spirit ship flew out of the Blackfield's main city. Master, what did you say? Far West Wilderness, Savage City. Hu Yinyang stood in the lobby of Family Hu's main courtyard and looked at Luo Qingtong, whose face was pale. Feng Er, Heath, was taken away by that man. Hu Yinyang looked pained. She had never thought that Chu Lingfeng would be taken away by that man. Didn't the other party not know about her and Lingfeng's existence? Back then, when he returned, didn't he already know from Bai Feng and the others that he was already dead? Why did he take Ling Feng away? He used his bloodline connection with Chu Lingfeng to take him away. If I'm not wrong, it should be related to the constitution Chu Lingfeng inherited from him. Luo Qingtong looked at her and whispered. I understand. Hu Yinyang's body was on the verge of collapsing, but she managed to stabilize herself in the end. After training by Luo Qingtong's side for so long, and being in charge of such a large force, she had interacted with all kinds of people. She was no longer the naive girl who was at a loss when something happened. Master, she looked at Luo Qingtong, then suddenly bit her lip and asked, I want to cultivate. Do I still have a chance? Hu Yinyang knew her own body well. Her strength had been greatly reduced back then, and her body was almost hollowed out. It was a miracle that she did not die back then. It was almost impossible for her to cultivate now. Immediately, her soul will be incomparably compatible with her body. At the same time, her soul will be completely sublimated and baptized. The previous drawbacks of soul detachment will completely disappear. Not only that, but it's also possible to activate a soul seal. Do you think the ancient heavenly spiritual wood is fake? Little Pig rolled his eyes in the 9-layered exquisite pagoda. He was very surprised when the 1,000-year-old soul guiding tree in Luo Qingtong's hand turned into an ancient heavenly spiritual wood. If it wasn't a good thing, why would he be so surprised? The benefits of the ancient heavenly spiritual wood were too many. Chapter 1756. Think about it, one leaf for one soul imprint. In other words, as long as one consumed enough leaves from the ancient heavenly spirit tree, one could obtain different soul imprints. However, with Luo Qingtong's innate mixed yuan body, she could use all kinds of energy attributes. In other words, the ancient heavenly spirit tree's effect could be maximized in Luo Qingtong's hands. Even if others obtained the ancient heavenly spirit tree, they could only consume one leaf at most. What was the use of having more soul imprints if one couldn't use them? For ordinary martial artists, it was already good enough to cultivate one energy attribute to the extreme. The more powerful ones could cultivate 2 or 3 types. One had to know that the more energy attributes one cultivated, the easier it was to disperse one's energy and achieve nothing in the end. However, with Luo Qingtong's innate mixed yuan body, she could change her energy attribute according to her will. In other words, as long as Luo Qingtong cultivated one type of energy, she could use all the energy attributes in the world. Under such circumstances, coupled with this ancient heavenly spiritual wood, to what extent would her strength increase to? Little Pig didn't dare to imagine. After hearing Little Pig's words, Luo Qingtong's eyes lit up. She raised her hand and took out the little sapling that grew from the heart of the 1,000-year soul guiding wood. Ancient heavenly spirit tree. Luo Qingtong looked at the little sapling in her hand. When Little Pig said that the little sapling's aura wasn't quite right and didn't seem like the 1,000-year soul guiding wood, she didn't pay much attention to it. She didn't expect this little sapling to be such a good thing. Luo Qingtong raised her hand and plucked one of the leaves from the sapling. This ancient heaven spirit tree sapling only had 2 leaves, and it was still a sapling. When Luo Qingtong plucked one of its leaves, it instantly trembled. Luo Qingtong looked at its movements and asked Little Pig, will its leaves grow again after I pluck them off? Yes, but it needs to have enough energy. The ancient heavenly spirit wood can be fed with soul power. The purer and stronger the soul power, the more obvious the improvement will be. It is the nemesis of many spirits and ghost cultivators. At the same time, it is also the target of their desire. If a ghost cultivator were to obtain an ancient heavenly spirit tree and refine it, they would be able to cultivate a specter's body immediately. but you don't have to be afraid. Inside the 9-layered exquisite pagoda, Little Pig crossed his legs and said, "You have the life and death yin-yang sword. No matter how powerful a ghost cultivator is, they're just throwing their lives away. As long as you don't attract a large army of ghosts, no one can do anything to you." "Yes." Luo Qingtong nodded. She put away the ancient heavenly spiritual tree's sapling and looked at Hu Yennyang, who was opposite her. The latter was looking anxiously in Luo Qingtong's direction. Luo Qingtong was talking to Little Pig in her mind, so she didn't know what was going on. At that moment, she was waiting for Luo Qingtong's answer. "Master." Seeing that Luo Qingtong was silent for a long time, Hu Yennyang was mentally prepared. However, just when she thought there was no hope, Luo Qingtong's voice sounded. "Yes. Yennyang, take this leaf and eat it." Luo Qingtong handed the leaf of the ancient heavenly spiritual tree to Hu Yennyang. "After you stabilize your soul, I'll help you nurse your body." "Yes. Master." Hu Yennyang was pleasantly surprised. Chapter 1757. "Thank you, Master, for your help." She knelt on the ground and kowtowed heavily to Luo Qingtong. Hu Yennyang could not imagine what would have happened if she and Chu Lingfeng had not met Luo Qingtong in this life. They would have been smashed to pieces and not even their corpses would be left. That was not enough to describe their misery. Luo Qingtong was their only salvation in this life. She was also their only faith in this life. Hu Yennyang swallowed the leaf of the ancient heavenly spiritual tree. In an instant, wisps of black gas seeped out from the top of her head. Those were all the turbid and foul gases that Hu Yennyang's soul had absorbed from heaven and earth after it had left her body. At this moment, those gases had all been cleansed away. Her soul was extremely clear, just like a newborn baby. It had completely merged with her body without any barriers. While Hu Yennyang was consolidating her soul, Luo Qingtong was preparing the medicinal herbs for her body to recuperate. Hu Yennyang's body had been severely damaged previously. She had been hunted down while pregnant and had almost died. Her body was like a huge sieve. There were holes everywhere and water was leaking out everywhere. What Luo Qingtong had to do now was to patch up all these holes. Her pupillary technique could easily let her know where Hu Yennyang's body problems were and then prescribe the right medicine for them. While helping Hu Yennyang recuperate her body, Luo Qingtong was not idle. She passed the wood spirit to Su Yu and the people from heavenly diabolism. The latter and the people from family who controlled the entire far west wilderness from the inside and outside. Starting from Wildland City, family who controlled the forces in the city, while heavenly diabolism dominated the wilderness in the Wildland City. Outside of the wastelands were led by the heavenly diabolism. Within the city, however, family who was the leader. The entire far west desolate region was under Luo Qingtong's command along with the expansion of their forces. Of course, in the far west desolate region, Luo Qingtong was known as Yi Jiu. The number of people who knew that she was evil Dr. Gui Tong and Luo Qingtong could be counted on one hand. Luo Qingtong didn't care about having another identity. In fact, she quite liked this feeling. It was a trump card, so why did he have to show it to others? She loved to see others foolishly stumble into something, only to realize that they had bumped into an iron plate. After receiving the wood spirit from Luo Qingtong, Su Yu and Tian Xie's people didn't say anything else. They handed over their tasks to their subordinates and everyone began to crazily close up and level up. Boom boom boom. As time passed, Su Yu and Tian Xie's people broke through to the sage realm one by one. Everyone's foundation was solid to begin with, and they had been trained in the army previously. Their minds were very tough, and they didn't encounter any obstacles. With the help of the wood spirit's heart, they broke through to the sage realm. Hu Yannyang also began to cultivate successfully under Luo Qingtong's care. Luo Qingtong gave her a wood spirit's heart for her to consume when the time was right. Then, they set off for the Blackfield City. While Luo Qingtong was heading to the Blackfield City, something big happened in the southern region. Boom boom boom. Heaven and earth shook violently. Countless terrifying waves of heaven and earth spirit chi twisted and turned crazily. The heaven and earth spirit chi radiating from the entire southern region was extremely terrifying. Chapter 1758. Countless screams could be heard. Boulders collapsed, mountains crumbled, plants exploded, humans and beasts were killed. In an instant, the entire southern region seemed to have fallen into a purgatory. Among them, the imperial sects suffered the heaviest casualties. Not for any other reason, but because the center of the explosion was the core area of the imperial sect. It was also the center of the 3 islands and 7 lands, the place with the most resources. The moment the violent and terrifying aura of the heavens and earth erupted, the core area controlled by the imperial sect was instantly split into pieces. Most of the imperial sect members could not escape. Under the violent aura of the heavens and earth, they suffered heavy casualties. Ha! The heavens are really helping me. In a remote city under the control of the imperial sect, a handsome young man with a dark expression and a ruthless gaze suddenly laughed towards the sky. He had waited for so long, but he did not expect to wait until today. You Si Huang, you bastard, you probably did not expect such a thing to happen in the southern region, right? Even the heavens do not like you and want you to die. Ha ha ha. The young man's laughter became sharper. He flew out and shouted sternly, "Everyone, gather your men immediately and head to Imperial City." The Imperial sect's strength had been greatly reduced, and Yu Si Huang was injured and could not use force. This time, he would definitely kill Yu Si Huang. Yu Si Huang, this bastard, had stolen his things for so long, it was time for him to return them. The Imperial sect was his and could only be his. Yes. Voices of agreement came from all around him. Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianming also received the news when the southern region was in upheaval. Upheaval in the southern region, upheaval of the spiritual qi of heaven and earth. Luo Qingtong looked at the report in Yi Qianqian's hand and saw that the imperial sect had suffered heavy losses. The imperial sect has suffered heavy losses. Will something happen to Yu Si Huang? Luo Qingtong frowned slightly. She understood the despicable nature of people. It was still fine when the imperial family was flourishing, but now that they had suffered a heavy blow from the heaven and earth upheaval, it was inevitable that there would be people who would want to take advantage of the situation to kill Yu Si Huang and become the new overlord of the 3 islands and 7 lands. The last time Yu Si Huang was in the Saint King's tomb, he had obviously used a power beyond his own to help her, and he had been recuperating since then. If someone really had bad intentions towards him, it would be troublesome. Luo Qingtong couldn't let Yu Si Huang get into an accident because of helping her, otherwise she would feel guilty. Cough. Luo Qingtong looked at Yi Qianxian and coughed softly. "Qianren, why don't we make a trip to the southern region before heading to the hidden world?" She looked at Yi Qianxian's dark face and thought for a moment. Then, she raised her hand and pinched the corner of Yi Qianxian's shirt. She shook it coquettishly and said, "Qianren." The veins on Yi Qianmin's forehead throbbed when she heard the sound of those rippling waves. Seeing that it was effective, Luo Qingtong's eyes became even more cunning. She continued to shake it. Hoo-hoo-hoo, her voice was full of twists and turns, and Bei Qing, Feng Yu, and the others who were outside felt goosebumps all over their bodies. The evil doctor was too cunning. It was obvious that she wanted to disgust their master to death if her coquettishness didn't work. Qianren, Bei Qing and the others swore that in their lives, they had never dreamed that someone would dare to call their master that. Furthermore, she was unharmed. They peeked at Yi Qianxian's expression. The latter's face was completely dark. Go. Seeing that Luo Qingtong was about to speak again, Yi Qianxian gritted his teeth and pulled her into his embrace. He lowered his head and covered her lips. Shut up. Chapter 1759. While Luo Qingtong and the others were heading towards the southern region, in a mountain outside Imperial City, Yu Xingqi's face was clever as he avoided a group of people who were searching and brought Yu Siwang deep into the mountain. Hey! Idiot brother, don't fall asleep. Wake up, you're so heavy, I can't carry you. As she spoke, she raised her hand to pat a certain someone who was half supporting and half carrying her. She had just saved Yu Siwang from Imperial Sect, he better not have anything happen to him. Shut up. Yu Siwang's face was pale. His devilishly charming face was filled with a pale expression. He looked at Yu Xingqi and wanted to say something in annoyance, but then he seemed to have thought of something and closed his mouth. Put me down if you think I'm heavy, who asked you to save me? His voice was cold. Anyway, I'm not your blood-related brother. Go find Yu Tianqing now, who knows, he might forgive your moment of confusion and save me, the bastard who stole Imperial Sect's nest. Yu Siwang pursed his lips. If it wasn't for Yu Tianqing's provocation, he wouldn't know that he wasn't the son of Imperial Sect's master and his wife, but adopted by them. Yu Tianqing accused him of stealing Imperial Sect's nest, he couldn't refute. The parents he recognized for so many years were actually not his parents. The sister he recognized for so many years was actually not his sister. Even Imperial Sect shouldn't be his. This was simply ironic. Luckily, Yu Tianqing was able to endure for so long, and finally waited until Imperial Sect's strength weakened, then he suddenly launched an attack. Yu Siwang thought of those elders and protectors of Imperial Sect's defection, and his face was filled with sarcasm. Who wants to go find him? Yu Xingqi curled his lips as he listened. Just based on his unscrupulous character, if I go back to find him, I don't know when I'll be killed by him, or else I'll be treated as a beautiful flower vase to be married off. She said while wrinkling her nose, and said to Yu Siwang, I can't go around causing trouble, and I can't take care of whoever provokes me. Maybe the trouble I caused in the past, in order to please others, he wants me to apologize to others, take care of me or something. I don't want to. Yu Siwang listened to her words, his heart endured and endured, but in the end, he couldn't hold it in, gritted his teeth and said, So you saved me so that you can cause more trouble in the future? This little witch, he shouldn't have had any expectations for her. To think that he was even slightly touched when she saved him. Veins popped out on Yu Siwang's forehead. Yeah, what else do you think it is? Yu Xingqi said as he glanced at Yu Siwang, then he held his stomach and laughed. Ha ha ha. You didn't think that I would say something like, you're my only brother, and I don't want anyone else but you, right? Ha ha ha. In your dreams. She made a face at him as she spoke. You bully me every day, and you want me to say these words. Is your face big enough? Imperial Star Qi. Yu Siwang looked at her appearance and instantly clenched his teeth. Shut up. Who is the one with the bigger face? Who bullies you every day? Wasn't it her who caused trouble every day, and liked to argue with him? If it wasn't to clean up her mess, Imperial Sect wouldn't have been developed to this point by him. It must be known that when Yu Siwang took over Imperial Sect, the latter was far from reaching its current scale, let alone unifying the 3 islands and 7 lands. Chapter 1760. But then again, after being messed up by Yu Xingqi, the sadness in Yu Siwang's heart was not that strong anymore. Alright, let's just say it's half and half then. Yu Xingqi rolled his eyes, then muttered, That's why, stupid big brother, you must be good. I can't deal with Yu Tianqing, that treacherous bastard, so I can only bully you. Nothing must happen to you. Or else I will become a pitiful person without a backer. Then I can't cause trouble as I please in the future. Yu Si Huang listened to her words, and really gritted his teeth for a while. This little demoness, if he didn't die from anger, he wouldn't be satisfied. But seeing that Yu Xingqi didn't mind his fake brother identity, he was actually very happy in his heart. Of course, if this damn girl's words were a bit nicer, that would be even better. Other than dissing him, she couldn't speak properly, right? Alright, don't look like I'm going to die in the next moment, I'm still alive and well. You can say these words after I'm dead, so that I won't be angered to death by you. Yu Si Huang looked at her and rolled his eyes, and said in annoyance. Then, the pair of bewitching phoenix eyes instantly became incomparably fierce. If Yu Tianqing wants to kill me, it won't be that easy. Imperial sect was developed by me to this extent, if he wants to snatch it away, dream on. That's right, that's right. Seeing that Yu Si Huang pulled himself together, Yu Xingqi's heart was happy. Previously when brother found out that he wasn't father and mother's child, he was in a daze. She was worried when she saw him. If not for this, how could Yu Tianqing betray him so easily? Wasn't it taking advantage of brother's unease and weak body, and couldn't use force? Or else, he wouldn't be able to move Yu Si Huang. Let's go, brother, let's continue to walk inside. As long as we can hold on for this period of time, everything will be fine. As long as Yu Si Huang recovered his strength, let's see how Yu Tianqing and them die. And such a big thing happened in the southern region, Yu Xingqi believed that Luo Qingtong must have received the news. Knowing that something happened in Imperial Sect, she would definitely come over to take a look. At that time, she would make Yu Tianqing and them suffer the consequences. Daring to bully her and brother. Yes. Yu Si Huang didn't say anything, allowing Yu Xingqi to support him into the depths of the mountain range. At this time, Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianxian had also arrived in the southern mountain range. The situation in the southern mountain range was more serious than she had imagined. There were broken scenes everywhere. As for the changes in the Imperial Sect, they had already reached her ears. It was said that there was a rebellion in the Imperial Sect. Yu Si Huang was not the son of the previous Imperial Sect, but was adopted by them. He had already been expelled from the Imperial Sect, and his whereabouts were unknown. Her expression abruptly changed. Evil doctor. Bei Qing and the others looked at Luo Qingtong. They had already arrived at the core area controlled by the Imperial family. Let's search for Yu Si Huang's whereabouts first. Hearing that Yu Si Huang and Yu Xingqi went missing together, Luo Qingtong's heart relaxed a lot. Yu Xingqi, that sly spirit, had a bunch of black-bellied ideas. With her by Yu Si Huang's side, Luo Qingtong believed that they wouldn't get into trouble so quickly. As for the people in the Imperial Sect, Luo Qingtong's eyes coldly looked in the direction of the Imperial Sect's headquarters. You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.